Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Melbourne, Australia. We currently conduct these streams mainly on Wednesday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website at MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to Migration Stories, and we are produced by Northern Access TV. It's a series part of Nat Chat, and today I'm very happy to have with me Omar Perez, who migrated here from Pakistan.
Pakistan, yes.
And he will also be playing some musical instruments and some fantastic music. We'll come across to that a little bit later in the program.
Thanks for that.
But it really is your passion, isn't it, music?
Yes, it is. Yes, I've been playing for a long time. Started playing pretty much in high school.
Right.
And started forming bands. This is early on when, you know, the situation in Pakistan was changing slowly. And
yes.
Started having more music, more art-related activities. It wasn't like that always.
Well, you're young, so that's not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago. Yeah, it is.
And I've heard that there's actually hard rock and, you know, hard rock and heavy metal bands in Pakistan.
You wouldn't believe it.
Really?
You wouldn't believe it. There's some friends of mine. They've got a band called Kayas. I really enjoyed their music, and they won Asian category awards, like the best rock band in Asia. And yeah, they've gone to India. They've performed. Yeah, they're from Pakistan. They're from my city. They're from Islamabad. One of the guys, the founder, the guitar player, is my schoolmate from. I mean, we started together pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, he taught me a few things, and then we were like we were learning off each other because we didn't have any music schools in Pakistan.
Well, we'll come to the music, and well, we're going to come to actually some live music on this show, so absolutely stick around. But yes, it was very different in Pakistan earlier. So what was it like as a youngster there growing up? What was happening around you?
The sad bit is, like, now that you know about it when you're outside of the country, and also when you grow up and you see a change and then you realize that this wasn't the way it was before. I was born in the General Zia era, which is a dictatorship, and General Zia was supporting the Afghan war, and there was a lot of they called it Islamization, making all the laws and all the rules and regulations according to the Sharia, but it was just actually, and everybody agrees on it basically now pretty much, is that it was just him trying to justify his dictatorship. So he was empowering himself using the pseudo or false pretext of Islam, and yeah, we've been seeing the consequences of that in the past few years. It's what happens is once you provide that sort of cover for a lot of groups.
He brought out a more even, you know, forceful regime.
Exactly. He was kind of
using the religion to bring out something a little bit more sinister then, perhaps.
And that sinister mentality is something we haven't been able to get rid of till now. I mean, we're a democracy. We've transitioned from democracy to democracy now.
Yes.
But just the fact that you're electing a parliament and doing democracy and that sort of practice doesn't get rid of all the problems that are created by a long dictatorship. And
absolutely. Yes.
That mentality is still there. Yep. That supremacy of, you know, your belief system and imposing it on other people is still there. And
it happened at all levels, like the local council sort of area, and that sort of,
yes,
you know, in the military and
the hand-picked people were appointed to all these bodies.
Yes.
So that makes it easy for a dictator to work. So that mindset is something that the governments that are democratically elected, they also end up following now. It just makes it convenient for them to keep their man on, the tax watch or something.
Indeed.
They're not going to catch anybody.
Indeed.
So that affected the arts really badly, coming back to music and the arts.
Did it?
Yeah, because once you don't have people who are actually, they don't...
Free enough to express themselves.
And also people who are not really related to that field. They're coming out and they're heading departments that are art or music related. They can't really nurture new artists, can they? Because they don't know anything about it.
Well, getting back to that, you were in a family, you had your family there in Pakistan.
Yeah.
When did you start thinking, or did your father or parents start thinking about migrating to Australia?
Yeah, because we were never into, a lot of people, my class fellows and people who were graduating with me in Pakistan after studies, they were thinking of moving to, immigrating to Canada, US, UK,
yes.
or Australia.
One of those countries.
One of those developing, really well-developed countries with lots of opportunities. I was never one of them. I was working in the media area and multimedia as well. I was working with a channel, one of the biggest channels in Pakistan, news channel, and I was also doing a lot of multimedia work from my past experience, which is websites, graphics, digital graphics and that sort of stuff. It was later. I mean, we just had applied out of, let's just apply. There's a couple of people who were applying.
You wanted something and you thought you'd apply.
We thought it would be a good idea to have an option, sort of, literally. It was like, let's have an option of...
So what happened then? But you were successful and...
We got it was a pretty smooth process for us, and we got the whole immigration thing cleared out pretty quickly. Minor hitch, because I'd moved jobs. I was, the investigation kind of found... Somebody told them that, I haven't worked at a place that I'd mentioned as my work experience.
Oh, I see.
Because I'd moved from there, and the people who were there now didn't know me. Well, that was a minor hitch, but I cleared it out, and, the authorities were really nice. It was just a few emails, and that was good enough. And then I was like, we visited Sydney, we went back, and then an incident happened that I think I told you about it on the phone as well.
What incident?
Nothing had happened that had kind of caused us to, as I told you before, think of moving overseas permanently or definitely making that decision. My son got kidnapped.
Oh my goodness!
He was taken for 5 days for ransom.
Yes, that's terrible.
And
unbelievable.
Yeah, and that was a very scary. I mean, that's like one of those parts of my life. And my family, my wife, and everybody else, the extended family as well, that we kind of blocked out.
Yes.
It's that painful.
Look, we'll have to come back after the break and find out how you resolved that terrible situation. Thank you. Please come back after the break and find out a bit more from Omar about his amazing story.
The thing I love about Australia is our spirit of mateship and togetherness, and whether it's a drought, a flood or a bushfire, when times are tough, Australians stick together. Well, I'll be spending Australia Day at Tamworth with 40,000 country music mates. It brings people together to celebrate our music and our great country.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
With the warmer months upon us, here are some poolside safety tips. Because not everyone can swim like Clarkie and I. S is for supervision. Always have an adult watching over the kids. A is for Oswim. Have your children taught to swim by an Oswim licensed teacher. F is for fencing. Ensure secure fencing surrounds your pool. E is for emergencies. Always be prepared. R is for rule. Ensure your family know the rules around your pool. Be safer and have fun.
Hi, Bon, I'm Burgundy. Up now sign at worldsgreatestshave.com. Shave and or your colour this hair March. Help to blood beat cancer. Shaving you Australia get. I think that went well.
Welcome back to Migration Stories. I'm here with Omar, and your son was kidnapped in Lahore, which is actually quite a peaceful town.
Yes, it is, and it's been like that. It's actually the arts and culture sort of hub of Pakistan.
And was this maybe
town.
because you're seen as a, sort of a better off, educated and, you know, employed and wealthy person, or why would this have happened?
It was really strange because kidnapping for ransom has increased since we moved here, and it has increased dramatically in some of the safer towns as well. But it wasn't as common at that time.
No.
But you know, we were unlucky.
You were. So how did it resolve? I had to go out and, you know, kind of follow. Negotiate,
they would call, negotiate,
do your own
and
investigation.
They had to call.
Really?
They would call and they would set up a time to meet, and I had to go every night, almost non-stop
and
for 5 nights.
Were you petrified to inform the police, or?
We got the police involved.
Yeah,
because one of our neighbors was a police.
This is terrible.
It took 5 days to resolve, and they would call, and I mean, it was like a movie, literally. It was like, you know, getting calls and then following their leads, and then them telling us, no, go back or something.
Right, I see. Mind games.
Yeah, it was
terrorizing.
It was pretty traumatic.
So eventually, you had to hand over some money and
we paid them a big amount and
I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's terrible.
Yeah, it was a pretty dark sort of time.
I guess you're pretty keen to come to Australia after that.
Yeah, we were like, okay, we've got immigration, we've got bad, you know, security situation in Pakistan. It's happened to us. It's hit home.
Yes.
You know, when it's happening around you,
wow.
Maybe it doesn't hit home that much. You know, when other people are getting affected, when it's your family, when your kid is affected by it, you don't want to put up with it anymore. So
you came to Melbourne.
Yes, we moved very quickly to Melbourne. Yeah.
And so, just very quickly, well, what happened then? You know, you employed, or you went to study, or you brought your family over? You had your whole family over?
Actually, my wife and my kids moved before me because I was still under a contract. I was working at the television channel I mentioned. Then I joined them later and started looking for work, teaching at one of the institutes. And
excellent.
That sort of stuff, and trying to find
my way around. So hopefully everything's pretty beautiful now, and you have new aspirations now to develop your musical career.
Look, it's been amazing. It's been a bit of a struggle early on when you lose your whole network of people. Even if it's a country where that doesn't really encourage arts and music, you end up developing a following there. And when I moved to Australia, I felt that I'd completely cut myself off from the people that knew I played music or would come to my gigs or stuff like that. And then I had to work my way up slowly. Started with, I was like, where do we go? I was like, let's go busk in the city. So I got a busker's permit, and I'm doing a music video that's actually kind of a story about my experience of learning the ropes around Melbourne. Music-wise. I mean, there's other stuff as well, but that's something I'm doing.
Now, which instruments do you play? Because, well, I see 3 or 4 types of instruments here. What's this here then?
The percussion. Okay, this is a really cool instrument. I like it a lot. It's a clay pot, and it's called a ghada. It's a ethnic Pakistani instrument from the obviously rural areas, because it's used to carry water as well. You can see it's hollow.
Beautiful.
And also, when you're done with the water, you can.
Oh wow! I've heard that on Indian music.
And
Pakistani music.
And then you can, it's from the rural areas. Goes into Rajasthan on the Indian side, I think, the province Rajasthan or the state, and. This top is the bass and the sides of the treble. So,
excellent.
Water as well as percussion. So you got multi-purpose.
And you also have a traditional instrument, stringed instrument?
Yes. All these instruments are instruments I'm essentially learning to play.
Yes.
But this one is a beauty. I love it. It's called the rabab. The rabab is a folk instrument from the northwestern or KP or the troubled area, as the world would know it, Pakistan.
Okay, close
but
to.
It's close to Afghanistan, yeah.
Yep.
And this is an instrument from Afghanistan as well, but it reaches out all the way to the Punjab and into the Indian Punjab as well.
And these are resonant strings here?
Yeah, they heaps of strings here. They're about, I think, 12. And they tune to all the notes of the scale, all the chromatic notes. And then whichever note you play, there's a string to ring with it. So, you know, it's really big, resonant.
Yeah.
Huge hollow chamber here.
I see.
So, yeah. So it's like,
And is that got a pickup on it too?
yeah, that's me.
You're experimenting all the time.
I modified it. First of all, when I was getting it, when I was in Pakistan last, about a couple of years back, there's a friend called Farhan Bogra. He's kind of brought the rabab back into Pakistani mainstream music. He's played a few fusion tunes with mainstream bands, and he's got a very good ethnic fusion band as well. And so he was kind of an inspiration. And my friend Taimur, who's a very good sarangi player, another folk classical actually instrument.
So what's your aspiration with music now? You want to put out records and videos? And
yeah, I just want to do the circuit, man. I want to do everything. I want to put out music, I want to do gigs, I want to play with people, find musicians to play with, and release music, do videos.
So much to find out, but we've got to go to a break now, and then after the break we'll be enjoying some contemporary music from Oman.
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Every new line means 2 more hands. Join us, lions.org.au.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Go head on into the fast-paced world of roller sports.
Come on, keep up.
So tell us about your skating and your experience.
Inline Plus introduces you to the world of roller sports in all its forms.
We are actually going to catch up with 4 members of the Australian team.
Great place to skate because the surface is quite smooth.
So get your skates on.
Inline Plus.
Coming up next on MELfeed.video.
Welcome back. Well, we're happy here now because Omar's got his son back and his family, and they're in Australia, in Melbourne.
Right, yeah.
So we're into the music and electric guitar.
Yeah, that's my main instrument.
Indeed.
I'm learning the folk instruments as well.
Yes.
I play a few traditional scales. I've been always wanting to learn them.
Very interesting they are. Yes.
But this rock and roll guitar is my main instrument.
Well, you can cross over, but you have used traditional instrument in a kind of a recorded with a looping sort of machine here.
Yes.
Foot pedal.
Like the percussion instrument, the gada, and some other hand drums I've used to loop some music that I'm going to play over.
Yep.
I'm going to play guitar over those looped tracks that I've created at home.
Sounds very fresh and original.
So I'm going to do that, and this is just a folk melody from Pakistan, which I've kind of funked up with some riffs and stuff. So hope you guys enjoy it. That's the beat. चंगी हाँ साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ लोक जनन दीवानी लोक जनन दीवानी मैं रंग साया यार दी गडोली भर यार दी गडोली भर दी दी गडोली भर दी यार दी गडोली एक अला कोलों मैं डर दी एक मौला कोलों मैं डर दी हाँ माही यार दी गडोली भर दी सोने यार दी गडोली आहा आहा माही यार दी गडोली भर दी.
Wow, that is a different, fresh sound.
Cool, thanks. I'm glad you like it.
And you can build that up into performances. And so, how do people find your music? Or
I'm working on this track. There's a few tracks that are finished. There's it's all a multilingual compilation. It's some of them are in English. This one is Punjabi.
Yes.
There's another Punjabi folk tune as well.
All right.
That I've covered. I mean, this is covering it or writing a new arrangement for it, basically.
Gotcha.
There's some totally original stuff as well, which I write lyrics for and I compose myself.
Can you imagine doing this, anywhere else other than here in Melbourne? Are we one of the best towns to do this?
I love doing it in Melbourne. I play with all these musicians that I different ethnicities that I never met anywhere else. I play with a Turkish Kurd musician. I play with a Lebanese percussion player.
Man.
I play with an Indian bansuri player now, and it's like a dream scenario for me. World music and rock and roll together. What more can you ask for?
Brilliant. Now, how's your family going in Melbourne? And is everyone, engaged in school and finding work? And you're living in the northern suburbs?
Yes, we are. And the kids are going to school. They love it. They're happy.
So, what thoughts do you have of Pakistan now when you think about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's my home country. I can't.
It stays in there, in
your
heart. Of course,
I have a really warm feeling about it. I'm saddened by the situation that it's in now.
But hopeful for better things
for a better
in the future.
I hope.
Wouldn't it be great to go back and rock them out with this stuff?
Yeah, I want to someday. I'm going to start a crowdfunding campaign to finish my music off.
Yes.
And maybe tour Pakistan.
Wow.
The idea is to reclaim Pakistan from the bad things.
Yeah, having recharged your batteries here.
Go back and get the ownership of the land.
You've been here a while now, and what are your hopes and aspirations for Australia, culturally, perhaps even, musically, or, can you see Australia's role in the world being greater?
Look, Australia's got a great multicultural mix happening.
That is a strength, isn't it?
It is a huge strength. I think people don't even like right now, people need to step out of their own community blocks that our communities created, that hierarchical block within itself as well, and they don't come out of it, which is, I don't think that's fair to Australia, because you're in Australia, you should take your art and your music and your ethnicity and take it to everybody.
Be proud and show it to everybody.
Share it with everybody.
Yeah,
that's why I play with the
multi-ethnicity too.
Yeah, play it with everybody and share it with everybody, and that's what's going to make Australia more beautiful. So,
Omar, thank you very much for coming in today. We're going to have a little bit more of your music, but I'm going to sign off now, and so please do join us again next time. I'm Rich McErlain for Migration Stories. Omar, please give us another piece and we'll fade out on it.
Ago, people started shaving their heads to beat blood cancer. Today, I'm showing you how much has been sacrificed for the Leukemia Foundation's world's greatest shave. Don't act like you're not impressed. You keep shaving, Australia.
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Sport is for everyone.
No matter who you are or where you're from.
There's no place for discrimination in sport.
And everyone should feel welcome, safe,
respected and get a fair go.
Whether you're a player, a spectator, a coach or an official.
What do you want from your sport?
Are you ready to make a difference?
Sport is for everyone.
And everyone starts with you.
Keep your sport inclusive,
safe, fair and fun.
For more information, go to playbytherules.net.au.
MELfeed.video.
Inline Plus brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
G'day guys, welcome to the very first episode of Inline Plus as I regain my balance. On today's show we've got Naomi Griggs who's going to bust us some of her freestyle moves. At the back of the show, Adelaide Roller Derby are going to show us all things derby. But right now, here's Jason Sutcliffe Rollerboy with a very sentimental skate. Hope you enjoy.
We're here today at Caribbean Rollerama to catch up with Laura Hugarts, who's out there as we speak, and she's preparing a special little presentation for her husband, and we're going to catch up with her now and find out what all the mystery's about. There she is. You're preparing for the big day? So just tell us a little bit about what you're actually doing.
I'm doing a very special show for my husband's very special birthday. A dance routine that I've prepared just for this particular event.
How gorgeous is that? Good on you, Laura.
Thank you.
Well, it's not as exclusive as we thought it might be. Laura actually has a fan club here, and all her friends are here to support her, so you're all here for Laura?
We are. We've known Laura for a long time, since we all started skating in 1994.
Wow, 1994, so you've all been at it for quite a while? You all look young and gorgeous.
Do we? You're not too bad yourself.
Oh, thank you. I could find myself a new partner. So what should we expect from Laura today?
Oh,
Triple axles.
Anything we find.
Triple axles.
Triple axles?
To look beautiful and impress her husband.
That's the thing. Love. Isn't it gorgeous?
Just wonderful.
And you're a skater as well.
Of course, everybody is. Anybody is a skater.
Any clues about the performance?
I think it's just a mix of freestyle and dance and a bit of a dedication for Laura's love to Louis, basically.
Oh, she's very nervous.
Well, the suspense is almost over. Laura's about to perform her routine, so let's give it up for Laura.
Today we are celebrating your very special birthday.
How did you feel seeing Mum out there?
Yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking. She's been practicing for a while, so I think there was a lot riding on her performance. I think Dad really loved it though.
This tops the lot.
Laura, that was fantastic. How do you feel now that you've finished?
Much relieved. I'm very proud that I've done it. I'm very proud that I've taken it on, and I love doing these little routines. There's a lot of pressure though.
Well, we loved it too, and you looked absolutely gorgeous, and we're all really proud of you.
Whoa! I enjoyed it.
Enjoy the
Thank
party.
you. I will.
Roller Derby is back and it's massive. Inline Plus has exclusive behind-the-scenes interviews each and every week on the show. But nothing beats being there live. If you haven't been to a derby bout as yet, here's only a small sample of what you're missing out on.
Running around in my head, trying so
More Inline Plus after this.
Inline Plus brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
Every day, in many ways, the Royal Flying Doctor Service takes the finest care to Australia's furthest corners so that all Australians can enjoy the best of health. The Royal Flying Doctor Service has been taking care of Australians for over 80 years. But we still need your help to continue providing emergency rescue and essential healthcare to remote and rural communities. Make a donation or become a supporter and help keep the Flying Doctor flying.
Do you currently have a community service announcement on free-to-air television? If you do, you can now submit it to us as well via our website at MELfeed.video. We have lots of time to fill on these broadcasts, and we are sure to give your announcement a great run on MELfeed.video.
Bessie with Adelaide Roller Derby, and we're here on Thursday night for training at Woodville, South Australia. Yeah. A lot of people think about roller derby and they think it's a spectacle. What's so competitive about roller derby is that it's a sport, and it's a sport where women get to be individuals as well as being athletes. And that's what's great about roller derby and it being a full-on competitive sport. Adelaide Roller Derby is cool because we like to skate, we like to knock each other around, and we like to look cute while we're doing it. Most girls get started in roller derby by just buying a pair of skates. And that's what gets you started, because as soon as you put on a pair of skates, you smile. There are no prerequisites other than, there are no prerequisites to being a roller derby girl, except having a gung-ho attitude and having the self-confidence to fall on your bum.
I'm happy I'm up here, and I think you should be very happy you're out there behind that barricade.
When, not if, when we have a national competition, Adelaide Roller Derby is going to kick the rest of Australia's ass. Woo! I have been so lucky to originally be from Austin, Texas, where I got to watch roller derby come back to life in 2000. And lucky for me, I've moved to Australia. The sister city, Adelaide, which nobody really knows, is the sister city to Austin, Texas. So not only is the Austin girl moving into Adelaide, Adelaide's gonna have a roller derby team, and the captain of the Texas Roller Derby, who's from Austin, the sister city, is going to come train us, which is amazing. So we're getting trained by the Austin, Texas Roller Derby League, which means we're going to be as good as they are.
And Bessie's coming around again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inline Plus. We're joined by Naomi Grigg, who is a freestyle slalom skating expert, if you allow me to use that term.
No problem.
Now, you obviously go all over the world and teach people how to slalom and freestyle. How do you prepare for a class like that, or how do you prepare teaching them?
It depends the level that I'm teaching. Absolute beginner slalomers nowadays, I actually don't prepare at all. I just turn up and make sure that I know everybody's name and background. For the more advanced skaters, I have to know exactly where they're at. I have to have seen some of their skating and have to have a lot of moves, because then they get a bit of choice as well.
How do you work between different levels of the skating ability? There was a lot of cones going down this weekend, I can assure you that.
Yes, always cones going down, whatever the level. The higher the level, often the more cones. Yeah, people tend to work together on different moves, so some of the class will be working on something more basic, some of the class something more advanced, and one or two people I'm just causing a lot of pain to with really difficult moves. Down, earlier, down.
Now you're all over Australia, you're here in Melbourne. How's Melbourne been? How's the class been this weekend for you?
It's been so sunny. And the class has been great. A year ago in Melbourne, people were coming to do slalom for the first time and they weren't sure if they'd enjoy it. And some of them did and some of them didn't, and some came back. This time, everybody is a lot more interested in slalom. It's really great to see people learning all the stuff that I learnt, and sometimes I teach people to actually be better than me, and that's actually kind of more rewarding in a funny kind of way. Air time, yeah. So it's air. I got a so it's picked up in front of you. Yes.
What's going for you this weekend?
Yeah, the class is going great this weekend. It's a great view, obviously, a lot of people, so great advertisement. And yeah, we have fun.
How you finding the slalom today, Grant?
Oh, got a lot of muscles that are tired and complaining, but I'm doing things today that if you told me I was if you told me yesterday I'd be doing these things today, I wouldn't have believed you. So it's certainly improved my skating a bit, but yeah, the old bones and old muscles aren't what they used to be. So I'm really tired and really exhausted.
I'll go home and I'll start working on all my moves, trying to get them all smooth and everything, and then I'll go out and have a bit of a play with it. Should be fun.
Well, I'm going to try and go on.
You're watching Inline Plus.
Whoa! Whew, that was pretty close. Okay, that was Inline Plus for another week. Hey guys, thanks heaps for joining us. More jam-packed Inline Plus next week. Enjoy your skating and bye for now. Go!
Hey, how's it going?
Hop in the front.
Nice tattoo.
Hop in the front.
Get your shirt off, John.
Coming up after the break, John Power takes off his shirt. You can't wait to see it, can you?
Newport Skate Meet. I'm Robbie Pitts, I'm the organiser of these things. Newport Skate Park on North Road. These skate meets happen, once a month kind of thing. The idea is just to get all the Melbourne rollerblading community together, just have a good time, just promote good, positive fun. Got a range of people. You got like a lot of the older skaters who don't really get to skate very much. They come out like once a month. Anyone's welcome to come down. Great day today. Really nice park. It's really, really good. If you've never come down to one of these things, come down. You can check them out on MSC. All about having good, positive fun. Check the edit.
Well, it would have been, could have been worse than you would ever know. On the dashboard and melted, but we still have the radio. Oh, should have been, could have been worse than you would ever know. Well, you told me about nowhere, well, it sounds like some place I'd like to go. Oh, could have been, should have been worse than you would ever know. Well, the windshield was broken, but I love the fresh air, To capture it, black box, just a...
In tonight's top story, Dark Merlin's beard. Oh, anyone want Chewy?
You teach us strangers are dangerous. But someone we know is a much more likely threat. You teach us strangers are dangerous. But who will help when you're not around? Create a world without unnecessary fear. Prepare, don't scare.
1 in 5 of us are affected.
10% of us will have at least one.
And the numbers double for Indigenous Australians.
Just as quick as a click of your fingers, it can happen to anyone at any time.
What would you do if someone close to you was having a seizure?
Imagine if it was your child.
My brother has it. My sister has it.
I have it.
I have it too.
You're not alone.
You're not different.
And you have a bright future ahead of you.
So click for kids.
I'm Amy Lee, and I'm part of it.
Show Me the Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me the Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
Capture it, black box, just a... Well, it would have been, could have been worse than you would ever know. All we talked about nothing, which was more than I wanted to know. Now here we go. And it had even gone. Well, the car was on block, but I was already where I want. Well, should we ever even get to know? I was the world down like a little shakers to fly.
Alright, we're at the second spot, Lygon Street Ledges. Got a few people tagged along. Some other people went home, but that's how it is. Some people are still trekking it out, so chill skate on these ledges. Still a nice day, so it's good. Keep it.
Just a little last laugh on this show. and like a skull balloon, I believe in us. So put the pedal down and turn your high beams off. And I dial in your number, hoping that you're awake. It's a loss sometimes, but that's the risk that I'll take. I believe in us. I believe in us. And so put your diamonds up for auction, but don't kiss me. I won't let you shout my name into the ocean, but don't kiss me. I won't let you. I believe in us. And anytime that you won't start coming down, I'll be there in the front seat yelling, run the red light, run the red light, run it. I hate the way that I don't say what I want. What I want is to want what you want. Run the red light, run the red light, run it all. It's so out of it, dead. Don't look back now, but don't touch me. I won't let you down in my town. They don't get now, but don't touch me. I won't let you. I believe in us. And anytime that you won't start coming down, I'll be there in the front seat yelling, run the red light, run the red light, run it. I hate the way that I don't say what I want. What I want is to want what you want. Run the red light, run the red light, make the noise. So drive your car into the ocean, but don't kiss me. I won't let you make some headlines, kill your family, but don't touch me. I won't let you. Run the red light, run it all. And anytime that you won't start coming down, I'll be there in the front seat yelling, run the red light, run the red light, run it. I hate the way that I don't say what I want. What I want is to want what you want. Run the red light, run the red light, run it. Run the red light, run the red light, run it.
Inline Plus was brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
MELfeed.video.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme. Om. Allah.
Hello and welcome to Harmony in Diversity, a program that endeavours to encourage harmony and diversity across the wide range of faiths and beliefs here in Victoria, by showcasing individuals and groups involved in interfaith and multi-faith activities. In today's program, we take a look at the Focolare movement of the Catholic Church, and a visit their local youth group went on to the Holocaust Museum, along with a group of Muslim and Buddhist friends. First of all, I spoke to Stephen Hall about the Focolare's origins.
The Focolare movement began in Italy, in Trent, in 1943, and it began with just a young woman. Her name was Chiara Lubick, but she called it like a revelation. A priest once said to her, "God loves you immensely," and for her this was a huge discovery that God is love. That everything that happened to her, everything that happens to all of us, there's always a plan of love behind it. So she began communicating this idea to a group of friends, and within no time this group had become a little community. And in wartime, Trent, under the bombs, they often used to go to the air raid shelters, this group of young women, and it was always a way of escaping death to go to the air raid shelter, and all they would take was just a copy of the Gospels, and they'd read it by candlelight, and they'd try to put into practice what they read. So do to others what you would have them do to you. So when they were running to the shelters, perhaps they saw elderly people, and to help the elderly people to go to the air raid shelter was to risk their lives, but they did it. But the key phrase that really struck them was when Jesus says at the Last Supper to his Father, he says, "Father, may they all be one as you and I are one." And that's what they felt called to try to work towards, this bringing unity to the world.
Can you tell me how it came about that this very Catholic movement became so involved in the area of dialogue with other faiths and with people of no faith even?
She always said that she didn't create the Focolare. It was something that she tried to do by following God. And so the circumstances of her life led her to understand that this gift of unity she was called to bring to the world through the style of life she was teaching people to live. It wasn't only of use to Catholics, but also for Christians of other churches, and eventually she understood even people of other faiths were able to find things that were useful in this spirituality, which helped to bring unity between people of different faiths. Well, there are two moments that Chiara herself mentions. One of them was in Cameroon. There was a tribe called the Bangwa tribe who live in the mountains in Fontem. They had a very big problem with sleeping sickness. They had a very high level of mortality, and the local bishop asked the Focolare to help these people. So the Focolare worked over many years to help the local people help themselves. A hospital was built, and one of the first things they did was to research into sleeping sickness, and within a short time the mortality rate was cut dramatically, and the whole tribe was saved in a way. So the chief, he invited Kiara for a reception in the forest in Cameroon, and Kiara went there, and even though, as she said, the people weren't Christians, she said that the whole valley where they were seemed to be embraced by God in a sense. There was such a strong presence of God. And this was one of the first times she realised, well, living this way of unity wasn't just for Catholics or not just for Christians. Then later in 1977, Kiara received the Templeton Prize for Progress in Religion, and in the hall where she spoke, the Guild Hall, there were representatives of all of the major religions, and when she spoke of her experience as a Christian, how she tried to live for unity, she saw that the followers of all of the other religions were listening so intently, and she felt again that same presence of God who was present among them. And at the end of her talk, when she won the prize, it was the followers of the other religions who sought her out afterwards to speak with her. And then she realised, yes, God was calling her to bring this spirituality of unity also to people of other faiths, not just Christians. From the very earliest times, the Focolare community had people of every vocation, had young people, old people, people in religious vocations, but usually the vast majority of people have been lay people. So Kiara felt called by God to help to work towards a new humanity. And to have a new humanity, you needed new people. And these new people could be formed in different ways according to their vocation or according to how they felt called. So within the Focolare, there are many different ways people can be involved. There are groups for children, right from toddlers upwards, up to youth groups. There are different callings for adults. Myself, I'm a consecrated lay person. We have also married people who come to be part of our community. They're still married people, they still live in their families, but they also come to share in our community life. We have people who feel called to holiness in the workplace and to bring unity into the workplace. There are people, as you've mentioned, of different faiths or even who don't have a religious faith behind them, but they all feel called to live for unity, and they find the Focolare spirituality helps them to do that.
Tell us a bit about how important your own Catholic faith is to you, particularly as a member of the Focolare movement, and how that impacts on your relationship with people of other faiths.
Well, I have to say that my faith is my greatest treasure. As a young person, I discovered that for me, Jesus answered all of the questions I had, about life and the mystery of suffering, all of these things. I found the answer in him. With the Focolare, I found a way that I could live this to bring unity. So, for instance, when I think of how Jesus came from heaven, he gave up the majesty of heaven to become a creature like us. And that emptying, that gives me a great model. So if I'm listening to someone from another faith tradition and they're sharing with me about their faith, I'll try to be very empty of myself and listen really fully to understand what they want to tell me. And I've found that is a great richness that's allowed me to learn many beautiful truths that they have shared with me. Then for me, Jesus on the cross, when he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" I see that as the great icon of who God is, because if we believe God is love and God is the Trinity, inside the Trinity it must be an emptiness of love for three to be one. So that mutual love and making space for the other is what I want to live with everybody I meet. So with people from another faith background, loving but also welcoming what they want to offer to me is my way of living the Trinity on the earth.
Chin News. Hi, I'm Pan Burgundy. The Leukemia Foundation has given me the job of convincing you to sign up to the world's greatest shave. Now that's done, I thought I'd pop some bubble wrap.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3, yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
My name is Logan. I'm 12 years old and I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. My muscles are degenerating and I was put into a wheelchair 2 years ago. Soon I won't be able to move at all. The majority of people affected will not live past their 20s, including me. So we need your support to improve our quality of life until a cure is found.
Australian women need to kiss more. Watch out for persistent and unusual symptoms as they could be a sign of ovarian cancer. Know the important signs and symptoms. Kiss. Look out for symptoms like abdominal or back pain, difficulty eating or feeling full quickly, or persistent bloating, or a change in toilet habits. If you're experiencing persistent and unusual symptoms for more than 14 days, see a GP. Make sure you kiss regularly.
Thank you. Newsflash. I'm not wearing any pants.
How has the movement here in Australia gone about fostering unity with other faiths?
Well, there's been two ways that I can see. Some of the contacts we have been through official interreligious groups. During the World Parliament of Religions in Melbourne, most recently, we were receiving guests in the Focolare houses and hosting them, guests we had met through the different contacts around the world. So there have been contacts at high levels, but I suppose the main way that we have these contacts is through personal friendships and personal contacts. So yes, through the people we meet, many friendships are built up, and these friendships turn into long-term relationships. I remember, to just give one example, there was a family, a Muslim family we knew in Perth, and they were struck by the love of their neighbours. And they said, "Why do you love us?" And the neighbours said, "Oh, we're part of the Focolare movement." And they said, "Well, what's this Focolare movement?" And a beautiful friendship began between us and that family. And we were very struck. We had our Christmas carols and people were coming dressed up as shepherds and what have you. And the Muslim family came and they dressed their kids as shepherds and angels. So that was a lovely, lovely moment. Then to share the joy of other people is something that Jesus taught us. So for instance, during Ramadan, we often have dinners together with Muslim friends. We might even fast with them to pray to God for peace and then break the fast together. These have been beautiful moments. Recently, we've had the joy of meeting the Kadampa Buddhist group, and that meeting began just over a dinner with some friends. And one of the members of the Kadampa Buddhist group, he said that he was studying in Sri Lanka and he was very struck by some of the Catholic nuns that he saw there, and he said he wanted to do something for them. So we said, well, we've got a big kitchen, we could help you cook scones. So we cooked 500 scones with him and his friends, and we sold them, and it was beautiful. When he stood up at the Mass, he said, look, I'm not a Catholic, but I'd like to help raise some money for some nuns that I met in Sri Lanka. And so we raised a good amount of money through that. So just through meeting people, friendships are formed, and from those we move forward. More recently, we continued together, also inviting some Muslim friends of ours, and we had a visit to the Holocaust Centre in Elstonwick, and that was another beautiful moment, and friendships formed there are also continuing. And we hope with the Kadampa friends to have a concert in our backyard during Harmony Week next year.
Tell us a bit more about the visit to the Holocaust Museum. How did the idea come about?
Well, the suffering of the Jewish people is quite a unique suffering, we would have to say. And there's a lot to learn from how they lived that moment of suffering, and if we can be aware of that, we can be part of the solution to make sure that never happens again. So we felt drawn to be able to share in that suffering they had, to learn ourselves how to live for peace, live for unity. So ourselves, the Kadampa youth, and two Muslim friends from the Islamic Research and Educational Academy, we went to this Holocaust Centre. It was a very profound moment of encounter, and I believe that it will be the start of a friendship that continues also with members of the Jewish community as well.
There was a gentleman, Henry, who showed you around at the museum. I was personally very struck by his story. How did Henry's story impact on you and on the other members of the group?
Well, obviously we lived an experience of pain, because the memories which Henry Korn shared with us were certainly not memories that were easy for him to share, and it cost him a lot. And then also for ourselves to hear so many true and difficult things also cost us. But I felt it was a moment of healing for both sides, and at the end we had such a great joy that for me as a Christian it was an experience of death and resurrection, that we had shared this suffering together, but arrived at a way of seeing each other as brothers. That was the experience, brothers and sisters, that was the experience we made. And the fact that we were from different religious backgrounds made it more poignant. It was a very profound and beautiful day.
Why did you do it?
After Henry began speaking about his experiences, it makes you realize the history behind the Holocaust and the suffering that he went through. And even just going through, walking around the museum was you didn't actually feel until you actually went in there and saw the images and learned about the suffering where it's can't really explain it. You just really you feel it as soon as you walk around, and you learn a lot about the history of the Holocaust and the suffering that the Jewish people went through. I think knowledge of other faiths is important, because we all live together, and there's a lot of different religions, ethnic backgrounds, traditions and cultures in the world and in society, and I think just understanding them, understanding other faiths is important, just so we can live together in harmony.
Hi, I'm Bon Burgundy. This March commemorates 20 years of shaving to help the Leukemia Foundation beat blood cancer. To see how things have progressed, here's a look at the very first social media post. I swear it's true. You didn't need a password to log on. Just some sticky tape. Oh, Bond, stop it. You keep shaming Australia.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 27.
I was 46.
I was 62.
The first symptom I noticed
Was loss of balance.
Was that I was always tired.
was a loss of smell.
The most difficult thing for me is not to be able to travel in my retirement.
The most difficult thing for me was giving up a career that I loved.
The hardest thing for my mum was being pregnant with me.
Statistics show 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday. Help break the silence on child sexual assault. Go to bravehearts.org.au.
Tell us about the youth group that you're part of and its involvement with the Focolare youth group.
The Kadamba Youth Group originated about 2 years ago now. It's actually the first time in the Kadamba tradition that we have ever had the first youth group in the world. So it is quite an achievement for us. And in terms of the activities that we try to conduct, for example, is holding local community events that could try and involve the youth members, not just limited to Kadamba tradition or to Buddhism, but we try to engage people from all sorts of different faiths, and that is what our core beliefs are, to incorporate everybody and so that we can make a better local community. And early this year in April, we held a badminton quake appeal that was very successful in that we were able to fundraise over $1,000 to contribute to the Japanese earthquake and tsunami appeal. And after that we have had other events where our members have gathered together in terms of our social activities and reflection events where we talk about why we believe Buddhism is so core to our lives, and we'd like to share this with with other groups such as the Focolare. So today we just attended the Jewish Holocaust Museum in Elsternwick. There was a surviving victim who explained to us all about his experiences from the past, his memories, and the trauma, the devastation that has happened, but also the main message that he portrayed to us, that he wanted us to take back home, was the key fact of communication. Because where there are people, there are always going to be conflicts and problems, but the most important thing is conflict resolution, is how we communicate with each other so that we can solve the problems and issues that we may have. Through communication, we will be able to make a better world.
It's always pleasantly surprising to find groups of people who affirm that they belong to a certain faith, and they are faithful to that faith. They practice their faith. So a group of Catholic people with a number of Buddhists, which is in itself an odd mixture, and 2 young men, Muslims. Now, in the Muslim world, there is this propaganda that the Holocaust never happened. So very often we do get Muslim kids, even born here from Muslim families, who ask the question, why are we told it never happened? And that is a very difficult question to answer. And it's very difficult to explain that it did happen. I mean, you're talking to kids. The two Muslims who came with Focolaire were already more mature. They were young men whom you could speak to, you know, and explain. And they were willing to listen and willing to accept the fact that it did happen and that it shouldn't happen again. So that was the most useful part of this meeting, was by being able to talk to these two young Muslim men. One was from India and one was from the Mauritius, the island of Mauritius, but Muslims, that they were willing to come to the museum. They decided, well, look, let's test what we have been told is true or not true. So they made the effort to find out, which is basically required if we are thinking, intelligent thinking human beings. We are told things, we must always test their veracity. This is essential in life, that we do not follow blindly what we are told, but at least try to make sense of it and see if we can find the truth of what we're being told and question.
What made the biggest impression on you today?
Biggest impression from today? For me, it must have been the joy of seeing 3 different faiths coming together. Because I think being in Australia, people take multi-faith and multiculturalism as something that's, they take it for granted. Whereas in a lot of different countries, it's quite secluded. You can just believe in one particular religion, and it's fairly difficult to have a certain type of freedom. Whereas here, to be able to see these different groups come together and hold an event to try and educate their youth members in terms of harmony and sharing happiness amongst different groups of people, I think that's the best part that I took from today.
That's all for our program today. For more information, and if you want to see this episode again, visit our website, harmonyuniversity.net. Also available there will be a long, raw interview with Henry Korn, telling his story. Until next week, bye for now.
Shanti Om. Allahu
There's no sacrifice, no sacrifice. It's no sacrifice at all. No sacrifice at all. No sacrifice at all.
Every minute, every hour,
Every mother and father,
every sister and brother,
every son and every daughter,
everyone you see,
everyone you cheer,
everyone you watch,
and everyone you hear, everyone you meet,
everyone you know,
everyone you love.
everyone is affected.
reach out and get connected.
MELfeed.video. This program is proudly sponsored by Overload Poetry Inc., producers of the Melbourne Overload Poetry Festival, and by Westward Poetry, the Western Suburbs' premier poetry reading.
Vanitas. We exist in the merest fraction of the quantum interval between one time-space reality and the next. All else is illusion. The future atom has not yet decayed. We have not opened the box. We have not seen Schrodinger's cat. The present exists only as chemical imbalances on neurosynapses in this incredibly complex and incredibly delicate biological computer we call the human brain. One day the microbes will eat us, but that has not yet happened, and some think maybe never will. Yesterday we did something incredibly stupid, but that has already vanished into history's notebooks and vaporized into pretty purple. Tomorrow we may do something even worse when we learn to throw asteroids around. But now all we have is the microfraction of the merest instant between the last and the next, the playground of Einstein's successors and their grandchildren. Heisenberg and Schrödinger only scratched the surface. We have no way of knowing what really is, and maybe never will. In the end, there is only dust in the fragments of time and space, smaller than the smallest quantum singularity, dancing on the head of a pin and lost amongst the enormity of that which really is.
With this first poem, I've tried to use my own experience as a migrant to sympathise with the only people in this country who aren't migrants, the Aborigines. It's got an introduction in two parts, and the introduction goes like this. Perhaps it is fancy, no more, that Uruguay in language Guarani truly romantic means river of shells birds come from whose shells I was born, and whose echoes inside me live on. First part called Self-Exile. Flew the coop, still a fledgling 19, world and its waterways all mine that day, some faraway river to find as new home. Left behind the broad river plate, cruised the Jordan, Guadalquivir and Rhone, lived on the Thames, punted the Cam, checked out canals in Venice and Bruges, till the Brown Yarra became my new host. Ah, but all rivers abroad I have known failed ever to feel like my own. Like a caged bird escaped to the wild, I've enjoyed every freedom travellers know, but always with bars between me and rivers and places other people call home. Second part is called Dispossession. So how would it feel if birthplace were denied you, terra nullius move over, rainbow rivers fenced off, and you became in your own land a stunned refugee? Would you cry till rainbows were washed colour-free, drink till the serpent forgot its own name, die a little each time white fella unashamed, doled out mock justice with gold in his hand, and blood coin was all that you had? Do you pray Rainbow River, resurgent with hope, will one day wash away sorrow keening in your soul? This next one's called GM, which in this case means globalized man. For manifold sins were I sadly an economic rationalist's accidental love child, I'd be born anorexic for downsized nurture received in the womb. Come puberty, my patented seed would be sold to murky Monsanto, genetically modified to resist all care and compassion, programmed to churn out chains of chubby consumers, destined to roam Muzak aisles, ever in search of a discounted bonus bargain. On mandatory 50s retirement rewarded with a sugared dose of cost-effective euthanasia. And this this last one is a romantic one that I wrote for Margarita, who's sitting over there. I wrote it a few years ago when she was living in Kew and I was living in Kensington, and we saw each other mostly just on weekends. Now she lives in Canberra and I live in West Footscray.
That's a message there.
Yeah. And we see each other about once a month, so it's probably more relevant now than it was back then. It's called Imagine as You Drive. When Sunday slides into evening and our weekend slips away, reluctant as a child told to pack up its games, I blow you a kiss from the palm of my hand. Hook thumbs, flutter fingers, like following wingspans as you drive away. Imagine this kiss as a bird, my lips call out in mime, whisper silent as a secret, only for you as you drive. Once home on your hill, beneath Venus the love star, jeweled with the moon in sky's cobalt blue, imagine that bird as it lands outside your window, nesting there in a tree till next time we meet.
It's easy for things to go wrong around water. More so if you can't swim.
It's great seeing kids confident in the water and enjoying themselves. An important part of keeping kids safer around water is learning to swim.
There are over 600 registered swimming schools that run the Australian Unity Learn to Swim program. To find one, go to the Swim Australia website.
I had the boys over for a barbecue the day before our final. Anyway, Steve rocks up, no beer, and he brought his model girlfriend. He was showing off, going on about how he kicked the winning goal in the semis, you know. I must have gotten a bit distracted and I put his steak on the same plate the raw meat had been on. Anyway, we lost the final. Steve had to go off sick during the game. I mean, it's not my fault. I mean, who brings their girlfriend to a bloke's barbie anyway?
Hot water storage tanks can be a breeding ground for Legionnaire's disease bacteria. You can catch Legionnaire's disease by inhaling small droplets of infected water during showers or other activities. To prevent this from happening, you should never reduce the temperature setting. Tank temperature should be left as set by your plumber. Or eliminate the problem completely with a tankless gas hot water system. For more information, visit healthyhotwater.com.au.
I'm just going to do a few short poems and a song for you tonight. If I can get this on. The first little poem is called Down with Love. If love were a dog, it'd be a pit bull terrier. We'd have to put it down for mauling people. This one's untitled. Sorry, I'm just going to get this comfortable. That's better. Rugs of spare and old dogs wait, tapping mine, but the pen sleeps. A hungry hat is ready to go. Thank you. Now, this next one I just put together this afternoon. I didn't know I'd be filming, so I hope my fingers can do what they're supposed to do. So please bear with me. Oops, sorry, let's start again. That reddish rhythm, like smoking liquid. Some say, listen rot, with a bath smile. How do these delicious prisoners bake such delights? Rest assured, they won't die naked. Thank you. Now this is just a little song. It's called I'm Okay Now. You bathed me in a lake too strong. You pulled those threads of tape. And I know you and I know you're watching. Let go now, 'cause I thank you. You did it all for me. I'm okay now. Hey, I'm okay now. You saw me feel the night. It scared you. Wonder if you ever. That's me. And I know you're trying. Let go the pain. 'Cause I thank you. You did it all for me. I'm okay now. Yeah, I'm okay now. Sometimes life is not so beautiful, but its color makes us dream. New day tumbles from the sky, and we begin again. Yeah. And I know you're watching. Let go now, 'cause I thank you. You did it all for me. And I'm okay now. Yeah, I'm okay now. Yeah, I'm okay now. Thank you.
This is called Pointless Tirade. Excuse me while I sit in a corner and scream. Just seems to me that the whole fracking world's forgotten how to dream. Even our good guys are mean. Our poets are just letting off steam. Our artists are chasing the buck. Our musicians are just trying to have a good time while earning a dime and spending it on beer and not having a care. And I can't help but stare at the futility of it all. We can't even tear down the wall. It's been done already. And what good did it do, even for a few? At least when it was there, we had something to fear that didn't shoot at us or blow us up. And protests were meaningful. At least the public took notice. These days, a street full of people is just another 5-second soundbite sandwiched between the grey men we follow like sheep on our TV screens. An excuse to provoke the police into beating some poor bastards up to get some good vision for the nightly news. And revolution still only means killing people so they can kill more people as an excuse for killing more people. And the dead still stay dead, and the living die of cancer or AIDS or something even more nasty like apathy or economic collapse. And most people just find some excuse to fry the synapse with some sort of drug or other stimulus like money or power or sex or pain and death. And I've run out of breath. So I think I'll just go sit in the corner and scream.
Okay, this one's called I Nearly Got Caught. Take my putrid guilt and toss it to the dogs, for I have no use for it, stinking mangy wogs. Gnash your teeth against my cunt, grind it down until it's blunt. Tear the treasure from my chest, bury your loins upon its nest. Seal my lips, my mouth, my teeth, just one gulp and you're a thief. Crush your weight upon my face, gyrate just so and find your place. Stab the tension with your cock, praise and worship, hail the rock. Heave upon me thy manly hood and how the grown a lover should. Unhinge the grip that binds my lust, away with you, you speck of dust.
I love shave. Shavey, shave, shave. Here go the clippers. Down to my belly. What? We're on? You get shaving, Australia!
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community, and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
What is this? Tastes like Zeus's armpit sweat. Ugh. Ugh.
Hi, it's just great listening to poems you've heard before, but love to hear again, ones you've heard new, the sharing of the fact that, you know, money is only an idea, but our ideas are the things that are often unsaid, and poets are the ones who try to capture the things that we haven't actually developed words for. So with that, the two poems that I'm going to read first, I've found, though not written together, go together well. I prefer if you just let the two flow, that would be really nice. I'd appreciate that. And then I'll read something a little bit different. Crumbs. I seek refuge in the stirring of sugar, given up long ago. The broken biscuits, the teacup, delicate, held on to. I, with so much to say, sip. Nobody wants to hear it. The next poem's about my grandfather and when he died when I was about 5 years old. And it's called In My Child Mind. A violent toss of head. A request. Blood, like the velvet fragrant rose. I pluck the thorn from the neck. Don't run for the pillow. It's all right, Grandad. I got it out. I don't run for the phone or my mum. I don't want to go from his side. It's all right, Grandad. It's only a rose prick. And he's gone. I am just 4 or 5. I'm running inside. I'm running a long time. I bring him the cushion. I bring him my mum. I bring him these every day. He doesn't come back. He doesn't prune the roses. No one leaves money on the milk bottles, this disappointed early riser. It's all right, Grandad. I am looking after the black cat. I am looking after the roses. I don't care about the money from the milk bottles that I spend at the corner shop. But Christmas dinner is baking, and I don't know why. No one speaks of you, calls you to our table. It's Christmas, and I don't know. I don't know why I had to go inside. I don't know if Grandad is angry because I didn't bring the cushion straight away. I don't know why. The black cat lies on his bed and refuses to eat. I don't know. I don't know why older siblings snap, grind me into loneliness. My paradise, the front fence, where strangers smile and Grandad's roses tower above great thorny stems. I don't know. I don't know why no one wrapped presents this year. I wrapped one for Grandad. I thought if I waited outside he'd come back. It's all right, Grandad, if you're angry. I should always do what you say straight away. Please, let's make rhinoceros noses. I am lonely on the front fence, and I don't know that thorns can hurt that very much. It's Christmas, Grandad, and everyone's inside now, except you. It's all right. I'll understand one day.
The first one I'll read is called Michelangelo at the Quarry. The marble is hard and cold, yet in my hands, malleable, so torrid. Inside this earth's bone, a building block of utopia, is what lies in the sculptor's mind. Nothing will emerge that I cannot imagine. Do not call me a mere labourer. I seek the cleanest blocks. No crack or black vein shall blemish my creation. Pure as sincerity, I envisage perfection. A man will wither, not so his likeness in stone. A fleeting expression immobile, a flash of anger, an instant of doubt, a smile of recognition the observer 100 years from now is compelled to return. My sculpture has been within this block forever. I chip, scrape and polish away the excess. Its existence will be as long. Thank you. I was going to read something else, but after Kim's first one, I changed my mind. This one's called The Words. The words well up inside me until they are a sea. Do I say it now? And the monsters deep, deep down cannot swallow it all, and the words crash in waves and form currents and tides pulled by the moon. Do I say it now? I wait until it's calm and plunge in. But the words choke and pull me under. Do I say it now? I struggle against them, away from the monsters towards you. Say it. I stand on the edge of my mind, coughing on my words, and you are there. Say it now. And so am I. Yes, say it now. I love you. And I breathe again.
This program was proudly supported by our sponsors.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah. The results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
Here is some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline. 1300 655 06.
1300 655 06.
It could change your life.
RSPCA, for all creatures, great and small.
MELfeed.video.
Smith, really wanted to talk to you today about your life in television on the anniversary of 50 years of television in Shepparton there. You spoke to me and we sort of got on how much I've collected. Now I'd like to know how you got into television and your journey through there from Channel 6 and then when it proceeded. And then we'll talk in depth at the end. I suppose just in Channel 6 in depth. So if you can just tell us from when you started in television and through to now, and then we'll go back and we'll talk in depth of the nitty-gritty of GMV and how it used to be in the old days.
It's been a wonderful ride, Wayne, since 1964, which is when I started at GMV. I did voice training under a fellow named Lee Murray in Melbourne, and I auditioned for about 5 jobs, including a television job, which was going to be just a temporary job at GMV6, replacing David Bryce, who was going overseas. Now, David Bryce, Len Wintour, Nancy Cato, all were at Channel 6 back in those days. And, of course, Jim Lilburn had been there, and those fellows and girls were just fantastic, and it really opened my eyes about television. I mean, I'd been like every other kid. I'd watched television in Melbourne. I'd come from Melbourne, and I watched it and saw the Olympic Games on television. I remember standing in a furniture store in Carnegie and watching the Olympics, because we didn't have a TV set at home at the time. But I went to Shepparton. I opted for the television job, albeit temporary, because as everyone was, and probably still are, fascinated by television. So I went to GMV6 with Rob Brow, in replacing a fellow named John Boland, funnily enough, who became Channel 7 political reporter down here in Melbourne, and who I worked for in latter years for 12 months. So I went to GMV6. So I didn't go into radio. It was after I went to television that I did stints on 3SR Shepparton. So I sort of went round the wrong way, I suppose, from radio to television, but I went the other way from television to radio, Wayne.
Right.
So I stayed there for 19 months at GMV6 doing everything. And the other week I was just remembering that Tom Hafey passed away. Well, he was coaching up there at the time. That's correct. At Shepparton, and he got them, I think, 3 flags up there, and then came to Richmond and got them 5 flags, I think it was. But it was just a fascinating ride going up there, and I became sporting editor. I'd do the kids show. There was a women's magazine program in the afternoons on a Wednesday. There was a sports show on a Friday night. We had a Ford football forum. There were Laurie Sweet, Ron Pays, and Bill Limbrick on the football panel with me. So that was my first hosting of a football panel back there in 1964. But I went from there to Griffith. I opened a television station, MTN 9, December the 15th, 1965. The chief engineer up there had been chief engineer at GMV6, a bloke named Kevin Callaghan. So Kevin asked me to go up to Griffith. So I did. I'd never even been to Griffith. I had no idea what Griffith was like, and I thought, gee, driving up there through Jerilderie and those places, I thought, gee, where am I going? But once again, much as the GMV6 experience, I just loved it. All those country towns. Shepparton was great. I still have friends in Shepparton now, 50 years on. And we had the reunion, that 50-year reunion, which was fantastic. It was great experience, great grounding for television. It taught me to think on my feet, So if things go wrong, we just carry on carrying on, I guess. But no, it was a great experience. And working with blokes like David Bryce came back from overseas after 3 months. But working with David and Len Wintour, just fantastic. And, of course, Wally McQuaker, our old mate Joey the Clown, was just a fantastic experience. And we had a great unit. I'm not sure, I think about 38 people worked at GMV6 then, and we just did everything ourselves. And it was just fantastic being part of the television world, but because before aggregation, each country station did their own thing. Ballarat did their own things, Bendigo did their own things, and it was a great experience for what followed on.
And after MTN9, you...
Well, after MTN9, once again, Brycey came into the picture. He'd been to Sydney and back, and he was at CTC 7 in Canberra. And he rang me, he said, what about coming over to CTC? So I went over to CTC, and that was 1968. And David subsequently left, and I stayed there for 3 years, 1971, until Mike Schulberger, who was news director at Channel 9 Melbourne. I'd been to see him, and he said, oh, the usual story, mate, you're too highly qualified for what we want. And 3 weeks later, he was on the phone. He said, can you write and read sport? I said, of course I can. I've been doing it for years. Yeah. So I came to GTV9 back in 1971, working with some wonderful people there. But it's been a great ride, Wayne, and since then I've worked at SBS, ABC, 3AW, Sport 927, so there's not too many places I've missed. I think Channel O or Channel 10, I missed them.
Right.
But that was about the only one I've missed.
Okay, so now after television?
Well, these days after television, I do hostings. I did 2 services, one at the Shrine last Sunday week for the Boer War commemoration. Last Sunday I hosted Bomber Command commemoration ceremony, which is only 3 years old in Melbourne. I do hostings for various things. I worked with the Western Bulldogs Football Club for 23 years.
Okay.
That was an honorary thing, hosting lunches and dinners and family days and best and fairest and the ball and that sort of thing for 23 years until about 2 years ago. These days, when people say, when they ask, can you, and I say yes, then find out what it is. So I find that's the best way. And I go and watch local football where I live, out in Greensboro, where we lived before we went to Ngambie, but that's another story. I went to hotels. I had a hotel in West Brunswick for a while, about 9 months. That didn't last long. And then I went to Ngambie for 4 years and had a hotel up there. So I was sort of getting back, inching back towards the Goulburn Valley.
Yes.
But where I had some wonderful times. And I've still got, as I say, friends in everywhere I've been. I've still got friends. And I was saying the other day to someone, it's a notorious business in that occasionally you can get knifed in the back. But probably I've only met 5 or 6 people in my whole 50-year media career that I haven't got on with.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's me being soft or just that I got on well with people. But no, I've always enjoyed it. And everyone's got a story. And I'm now a funeral and marriage celebrant, and I hear all sorts of stories. And I enjoy listening to people's stories. When I was doing interviews, Wayne, all those years ago, if I'd interview, say, a Tom Watson, great golfer, I'd spend half an hour with them before I did the interview, just getting to know them, getting their confidence, and then doing the interviews. Made it so much easier. The cameraman would be saying, come on, Smithy, come on. And I'd say, well, I'm just getting to know Tom or Tiger or Jack Nicklaus or any of the top tennis players. So, yeah, but and tennis, I hosted the Colonial Classic at Kooyong for a number of years, which I'm not sure what it's called now, but till Channel 7 brought it in-house. But I enjoyed that. I just enjoy getting out and speaking to people, Wayne, and occasionally I talk too much, but I gave a talk to a Probus club the other day. Weddings, as I say, weddings and funerals. I did a funeral last week. So whenever anything people orientated, I can settle in and do.
Yes, well, as you know, with Michael's website, Regional TV Australia, we really wanted to talk to people that have been in regional television and get the history of it down onto the media, onto the website, for people to see, because the way television operates now, there's nothing like it was in the early days. If we go back to GMV6 as far as the news, we've seen on that DVD that you were projecting the news onto a screen, and you're making up the script. Was to read it, or what was happening there?
Pretty much, you know, we'd get the news from Channel 7, not like today where you press a button and pictures come in from all around the world. But in regional TV, and I admire Michael for putting all this together, because keeping the thoughts of regional TV, which was a big, happy family, even though we keep running into people, oh, you're at BDV6 Ballarat when I was at BCV8 or GMV6 or RFVN2 Wagga or AMV4 Albury or GLV10 Traralgon. But the news we would take from Channel 7, but instead of pressing a button and the pictures coming in, it would come up by bus 24 hours late. But of course that's all we had. They didn't have links. They didn't have the microwave links between Sydney and Melbourne and Shepparton and those things. But would actually come up on 16mm film, little reels like this, probably depending on the length of the story, 30 feet, 40 feet. Okay. And we, through a bloke named Bruce Vine, who was at GMV, Alan Humphreys and myself, would put together a full half-hour news. Three of us would put together a full half-hour news. We didn't do much local stuff. I remember the first couple of local stories we did. I think a huge story, like a wall blew down in Shepparton. They were building a brick wall and a storm came up and blew the wall down. Everyone thought this was exciting. This was the first sound-on-film interview we had done. We got an Oricon camera.
That's right, yeah.
And we did this interview with one of the workers, and I've got photos of it. And it was fascinating. And then I went over to, I remember one with Henry Bolte was the Premier, and he had an election coming up shortly. And I asked him over at the inauguration of construction of the Buffalo River or King River Dam over there in northeastern Victoria. I asked him one question, and because he had the election coming up, I think the answer went for 6 minutes, which took a little bit of editing when we got back. I think he thanked everyone in the world, from the Prime Minister down, from the Queen down. That was fascinating. And that was and then we'd write the scripts. Yeah. We'd write the scripts. Sometimes the seven stuff would come up with scripts, and we'd have to doctor it to say yesterday or today. And the ITN stuff from overseas, that was probably 2 to 3 to 4 days later. Right. So news, as it happened, well, you couldn't say that then.
Yep. And they had teletype in reception. What did they get?
I'm just trying to think.
Whether any come through on that? Because back then, the coverage of telephones even, not every household had a telephone. So how do you go back getting a story, back in those days? Now we just flip out a mobile phone or an iPhone and everything happens. But back then only limited households and businesses had a phone.
You're right, Wayne, and we were thinking about that the other day. I was thinking about it the other day, how we communicated. And every time I do a funeral, I preface it by saying, we're so important these days that we have to be in touch 24 hours a day. We're so important. Whereas years ago, you could go missing for a day and no one would notice. But with the phone, I just ask them to turn their phones off because it can distract people during a funeral service. I remembered being at a funeral service a couple of years ago, a well-known cricketer, Ray Clarence Jordan, Slug Jordan, and a bloke's phone went off in the church and he couldn't find it. So he became the centre of attention because his phone kept ringing. But yeah, the communications were very few and far between. Manual exchanges up there in Shepparton in those days. I knew a girl who worked at the exchange in Shep, And I ran into a bloke the other day who'd actually done some work there at that manual exchange. And if you wanted to ring someone at Toolamba, that was a manual exchange.
Yes.
So it was a real exercise in trying to communicate.
And there was party lines. It wasn't just one person on a phone line.
Yeah. Well, I tried to ring a friend of mine at Toolamba one year, and the girls thought I'd said Tanamba or Tanimba or something, which happened to be in northeastern Victoria, and wrong number entirely. And as you say, party lines. Yeah, you didn't have a dedicated line for each house, but that was the way it was. And that's probably been the big change over the years, the technological changes between cameras. I mean, the cameras we had, those image orthicons down in Melbourne, but the Vidicons they had in Shep were huge things, really, in comparison to what they're using today.
Yeah.
But communications is probably the thing. I remember the excitement when I was in Canberra. I think we actually had a fax machine. But yeah, things changed. Because in those days you had Gestetners and things like that you'd copy. These days it's just copiers, you can get them for what, $40 at Harvey Norman or something? Yeah. But everything changed, and well, for the better, I think, in many ways.
Okay, now going back again to GMV6, to Wally McQuaker.
Yep.
What a character. I was a kid, 8.5 years old back then, and used to go into the GMV juniors.
Yes.
And this guy was just amazing what he could do.
Yeah.
And changing into other people also. He was the Ansett Airlines captain.
Yeah, we did those. We did, yeah.
The singing.
Yeah.
With the guitar as a character.
Yep.
And the amount of effort that he had to do to make a show.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't scripted.
No, it was all ad lib, and it was just brilliant. He was brilliant. He's a great bloke. I ran into him singing country and western up there on the Elsie station. We of the Never Never was the book that I think a lady named Gunn wrote, and it was set on that station, and that's where Wally used to have his virtual travelling country and western show, and I ran into him up there, 15 years ago. But then, of course, I've run into him subsequently.
Yes, he said to me that he enjoyed that side of it in his time at GMV6, how much he enjoyed it.
I did.
But then he said when he went on and he was singing and with the guitar, that he brought out Joey the Clown during the day up there on these stations for the kids, because the kids would have nothing to do the day. He'd play at night for the parents with the guitar, but then he changed into his alter ego, Joey the Clown, for the kids during the day.
Yeah, that'd be right. The GMV Juniors was a very popular show, and up there at GMV, we were trailblazers. I'm not saying me particularly, but David Bryce put together a show sponsored by Coke, funnily enough, called The Casual Club. And they had so many great artists on that, from many of them from Sydney, like Cole Joy, Little Patty, and I got to know them through Brycey. So the network just spread incredibly, but David put this show to Colleen Hewitt, I think, made her television debut on The Casual Club. But Brycey was such a polished performer. He was very good. They were all good. I mean, Nancy Cato, arguably, to my mind, is the best lady I've seen as a presenter on television, and I've met quite a few of them and worked with quite a few, but Nancy was great. Len Wintour was good in another way. Len was quieter, but had a good sense of humour, went to travel. I don't know where he is now. In fact, I'm still trying to find a few people. But Len, David, myself, Wally, then Nancy Cato was replaced by a girl named Susan Kramer Roberts, and she became the host of the kids' show, hostess. I don't know what's politically correct these days, but and we do things like, say, doing the kids' show, we build our own set during the day. Say you needed a fence, well, you'd paint it up and do all that. And we used to put on our own makeup, Wayne, and of course that caused a bit of a stir around the town, particularly if you forgot to take it off and you're walking down the street. No one had noticed these days. But I was saying to the girl in the pharmacy yesterday, pancake and pan stick, I knew all about them. But what they did at GMV, they had a time switch on the makeup mirrors for the lights. So when that time switch expired, bang, the lights went off. So you hoped to get your makeup on in 10 minutes. You didn't have a makeup artist. You just had a sponge, I think, and pan stick was a cream, gooey stuff. But if you're listening, Max Factor, don't sue me for it. But, yeah, so I got to know that. But they were things that I wasn't, coming from Carnegie as an auto electrician, which I did when I left school, to go to putting makeup on in a television studio, caused a bit of a stir, but they were wonderful times, Wayne. I mean, I still think of GMV6 kindly, and as I say, I go to the MCG now, and it's unlikely that I don't see anyone from Shepparton. And as I say, it's Tommy Hafey's funeral. Tom, of course, coached up there, and there were so many people from Shep there. Yes. And you like, it's a family, really, the whole thing. Everywhere I've worked has been like a family. But Shep holds a special spot in my heart, obviously. But, I mean, I'd watched Graham Kennedy and people like that over the years, and then to be actually in latter years working with them, or at least in the same station as they were, it opened my eyes, and it's been a wonderful ride, Wayne.
That's great.
But but Shep was great. I mean, we'd go home. I'll just tell you an aside. A couple of boys have passed away now, but we'd go home after the epilogue, because that was the closer of the station. And there was, I think, I can remember a lady doing the epilogue, but we'd go to one of the blokes' places and listen to overnight radio. Right. From Melbourne. You could pick it up at night. It was a lot easier then, in the cool of the night. But Stan Rofe was instrumental in getting me into radio and television all those years ago, and I'd ring him occasionally and he'd play a request for me. So it was just wonderful. And I retained a friendship with Stan, who would have been 81 last week. Right. But he passed away, of course. But so I was lucky enough to meet all the legends, if you like, starting from those humble days, if you like, at GMV6, which was just fantastic.
And it's so hard for people to get into the media side this day.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was fortunate. There was I forget how much I was earning a week, but I remember you couldn't wear white shirts because of the flaring. Yes. So we had to buy Polaco grey shirts or blue shirts. Sorry about knocking the mic. I should have learned not to do that. But Polaco grey and blue shirts because they didn't flare with the lights, with black and white particularly. Yeah, so that was... And people thought that we were making a fortune because you're on television. Yes. Not so. I dropped money to go up to Shepparton from what I was doing in Melbourne as an auto electrician. But I don't regret one moment of it. You'd have your... We're talking before about stress at times, but I don't recall ever being so het up with it. I mean, you can't get upset about things you can't change.
Yes. Well, you were lucky because David Bryce and Nancy Cato and Wally all had to have other jobs. They did some nightclub entertainment up there at the Victoria Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I did some entertaining up there, but it was strictly an amateur basis. At the Victoria Hotel and the Shepparton Hotel and the Goulburn Valley Hotel. And some of them, I think they're all still going now. But maybe the fact... I remember one of the last gigs I did up there in Shepparton was they used to have a Sportsman of the Year.
That's right.
And Percy Cerity, I think, was the guest Sportsman of the Year that day I hosted it. But I had one funny experience, well, a lot of funny experiences, but some I can mention. I had to look, they had a home show up there, and I forget the lady's name who organised it, But Chips Rafferty, the great John Goffridge, came down from Sydney to appear at this thing. And he was there for 3 days. It was my job to look after him. His minder, if you like. But John, or Chips, didn't mind a drink on a hot day or any day ending in Y. So we played golf. There was a chap up there who was the pro, not Graham Wright, but Len Bora. And Len was about 5'3", and Chips Rafferty was about 6'9" or something, with a big booming voice. So we went and played golf at Shepparton. And every time I hear that song, Pinball Wizard, by Elton John, I think of Chips playing out of the rough at the Shepparton Golf Club, because he would hit the ball and would bounce off the trees, and it was like a pinball machine. And you'd hear this voice, and I'm not saying what he said, but you can imagine, after 18 holes, you'd heard every word in the book. But he was one of the true characters I interviewed. Unfortunately, I did an interview with him, and we had a lot of close-up shots, reaction shots, and of course we're fledgling with one videotape machine in those days, the 2-inch Ampex, and it was a raise before it got to air, and I nearly cried over that. But yes, but I remember those 2 or 3 days with John Goffridge, or Chips Rafferty, very fondly, but it was fun. Yes. And that's the way I treated it all along, right through from the metropolitan stations to the country stations firstly, and then building to the... But as you say, the opportunity is probably not there now, Wayne, because of aggregation.
Yes.
There are a few people around who did present, but there were blokes like Fred Farger in Ballarat and people like that who, at the time, that's how you earned your spurs, was by hosting shows, producing shows, and working together as a team.
Yes.
And then when aggregation, which I hate, a word with a passion, apart from the fact I have trouble pronouncing it, but when that came along, it just virtually, to me, killed local content.
Yes.
They just push a button, and in they come from 9, 7, 10, 2. And I remember when Channel O went on air, I can remember the excitement, a third commercial station. But it's all changed now, and the kids wouldn't get the opportunities now.
That's correct, yes.
But we were willing to travel. But these days, I don't think the kids are as willing to travel to the country as we were. I mean, we would have gone anywhere, walked over broken glass to get a gig in country radio or television.
Yes.
And there's a group of us meet twice a year called the Survivors.
Okay.
And I'm also a member of a group in Sydney called the Television Pioneers. And I go up there for a lunch once a year and mingle with guys and girls who I knew of, but I hadn't met them. I hadn't worked with them. And they worked on the other networks and all the rest of it. But, yeah, so I retain that interest, Wayne.
Yes.
And that passion, if you like. And as I say, when people say, can you? I say, yes, and then find out what it is.
Oh, look, it's really great to have spoken to you today. I know you've brought along a lot of photos, and we hopefully we'll get some of these on the web with us, some of this early stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's been absolutely great talking to you.
Oh, it's been great, Wayne, and as you've picked up, perhaps I don't mind a chat. But, no, it's been a fascinating ride, and I thank you and I thank Michael for the initiative in trying to keep regional television to the foremost.
Well, our pleasure.
The forefront. I think it's wonderful. And there are people like me around who've got stories, well, most of them you can tell, some you can't. But I remember we did a thing at Lancaster called Outer Singlets. It was a send-up of a show called Outer Limits back in those days. And as I mentioned earlier, the Untouchables, when they got together with their hats, Bernie Lynch, who was a great mate of mine who's passed away, he was in it too. He was an announcer at 3SR, and actually he was a motor mechanic in the company I worked with as an auto electrician. So I'd known Bernie for many, many years. So it's a big family, but we can still get together and talk a lot of rubbish. But it's good fun rubbish,
Absolutely.
Wayne.
Thank you very much for speaking with us,
It's
Brian.
been a pleasure, Wayne, and as I say, Michael's initiative, your initiative, in getting all this together. Because country television, probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years, people say, what, GMV?
Absolutely.
But you're keeping it alive, so thank you on behalf of many of us who travelled that road.
Absolutely our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Do I get the gig?
Yeah.
I didn't have long that much tape you had left, you see.
No.
All good?
You've used half of it, so
Excellent.
That was interesting, you know.
that gives us plenty of space for the photos now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was great, that ride, but we'd go out, they'd send you out with 100 feet of film, and you'd have to get 3 stories on that 100 feet, and then take it back to get processed. So it was a hell of a job in getting film processed, and it was expensive. I mean, you didn't, with tape you can say, right, wipe it, we'll do it again. Then, God, and the managers would sort of look at you.
And you had the time constraints too, didn't
Well,
you? Because you didn't have the luxury of an hour's...
No. And you're always deadlines, Michael. Someone said, I had a bloke work for me in the pub in Nagambie, and he was working... Oh, he went to manage his own pub down at Gippsland. He said, gee, they wanted me to do everything. I said, oh, yeah. He said, yeah. And he said, I've had to go to the doctor. I said, why? He said, stress. And I said, stress pouring beer in a country pub? I said, mate, 6 o'clock deadline, 5-6 days a week. That is stress, particularly if you're up, say you're at Deniliquin or something and you've got to get back to Shepparton. It's a 2-hour draw, an hour and a half drive or whatever. And that sort of put you under the hammer too, knowing you have to get the film processed. And they process on site in those days and on the studio. And then they'd have to, the cameraman would have to edit, string the film up on, they had a basket with hooks and he'd string them up and then he'd splice them together. It was all hard splice stuff, even the commercials into the program had to be hard spliced, so they have to break it the next morning and send it off to the next station, hoping you haven't lost too much film, too much of the story. But yeah, it was great. It's been a fascinating ride, and I'll talk about it all day. I gave a talk to the Historic Radio Society last year, and that was fantastic. It was just fantastic to talk about those early days. I didn't have wire recorders. I came after wire recorders. They were 1/4-inch tape in those days, and then, of course, they tried everything, sound. But now, as you were saying earlier, Wayne, the radio guys and girls will go out in a story and just send it back through their phone and broadcast quality. Whereas we were flat out trying to get stories, particularly radio. You'd have to unscrew the handset in the phone and plug it in with alligator clips under the terminals in the phone, which is strictly taboo. Of course, PMG or whatever, Telstra, Telecom, hated you for doing that, but that was the only way you could do it. But now they just, Dennis O'Kane tells you, the technology. I went to radio school with Dennis O'Kane and the blokes from Shepparton, the Kilgowers, who were there at the reunion.
Don and Rod.
Yeah, Don and Rod. And we all went to radio announcing school together. And, but it was just a fascinating time.
MELfeed.video. Welcome to the CEC Report for the 16th of February 2018. I'm Elisa Barwick, and joining me today is CEC Research Director Robert Barwick. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Elisa.
And on today's show we have one topic. Canberra buckles to the money power on bail-in. We the people are the opposition. So, big news this week. The Financial Sector Legislation Amendment Bill 2017 is now law. It has passed both houses of Parliament. Now, just by way of quick background for people who are not regular viewers, this legislation represents crisis powers that the government wanted to give to our prudential regulator, APRA, which oversees the banks, that in a financial crisis it would be able to step in complete secrecy, run the bank and run everything essentially and resolve the bank. And that would include the capability, as dictated by the Bank for International Settlements and its Financial Stability Board, so the big bankers worldwide, to confiscate certain types of bonds that are specified to be converted or written off in a crisis. And what we've pointed out all along in this campaign is that, as has happened overseas, it is extremely likely deposits would also be confiscated. That has been denied, of course, by the regulators and by Treasury. However, it is explicitly not excluded in the wording of the legislation.
That's right. The bill, take all the technical jargon aside, allows APRA to grab savings of ordinary Australians. There's a type of saving that they can't deny they can grab, which is savings of self-funded retirees and self-managed super funds who are what they call mum and dad investors in a type of bond called hybrid securities that can be converted or written off by APRA in a crisis and turned into worthless shares. That's accepted, right? And this bill removed the legal impediment to that. And as you just said, the wording made us suspicious that given that this system everywhere else in the world, including New Zealand, which has it, explicitly allows deposits, the wording of this bill does not exclude that.
That's right.
And so when you understand what a crisis can be, then this gives APRA extraordinary powers and secret powers to be able to do anything, and deposits are not protected.
So we ran a major campaign since this came up in August of last year to stop this bill, and it was actually extremely effective because the initial press release announcing the bill came out late on a Friday afternoon. There was no media coverage at all. Had we not picked up on it, this bill would have passed in the subsequent session in October or November of Parliament, and no one would have even known, for better or worse. So the stink we kicked up forced it to be thrown into a Senate Economics Legislation Committee, which at least analysed it much further. That in the end didn't prevent it going through, but Robert, you were in Parliament this week and you were in the Parliament during the debate when it passed the Senate. What happened?
Well, effectively, what happened this week was what they would have done last October or early November if we hadn't have intervened. So we've delayed it by a long period of time and productively so, but we weren't able to actually stop it this time. But they snuck it through, right? I was there when 7 senators were in the room. I'm watching from the gallery. 7 senators put on a faux debate. 2 senators spoke, that's all only 2. And they took a vote on the voices and it became law. And I'm with a banking expert, Dr. Wilson Sy, who's there with me, and I'll introduce him more later. I'd been to Parliament before. He hadn't. He was shocked at how quickly this had been done. There was no ringing the bells, call in the division, etc. No one voted. And 2 days earlier in the House of Representatives, something similar had happened, right? Most MPs wouldn't have even been aware that the bill was up for debate. Only those in on it would have been aware. Because it's a technical thing, there's lots of legislation, there's all the Barnaby Joyce scandal going on, etc. All those types of things, and the government made sure that this was not a priority question for people to say, oh, you've got to go there and actually participate in this discussion. They wanted it like this on the low down, which is how it had begun. That's actually what happened, and we got to witness that. And it's lawful that it happened that way, Elisa, because this bill is anti-democratic. Right? Most of the functions to do with the banking system are anti-democratic, right? The banks are not democratic. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in accountability to the public. They even made sure our central bank, right, became an independent central bank, so it has no accountability either. And so when you're coming up with a law that can have these extraordinary powers, they don't want ultimate accountability, and you've got to go through the process to make it law. So they did it in as streamlined and a low-key way as possible, and it was actually quite a scandal, really. It needs to be a much bigger scandal that laws can be passed this way.
And this is why we referred in the headline to the money power, because once upon a time in Australia when we had old Labor, they knew about this permanent apparatus that from the top down would dictate terms and legislation, and they referred to the City of London, people in Labor, as the money power, the bankers and so forth.
Well, so let me just explain two things that are part of the picture that really are, in my view, outrageous about how this was done. First of all, we're going to play a clip, and you've got a few clips to play, but we're going to play a clip from Senator Peter Whish-Wilson. Now, to their credit, the Greens had been the ones to move this to a committee, but they were responding to us. Right, it was our efforts from the beginning that did it, and CEC Report viewers who joined the mobilisation, etc., made phone calls, were asking. We did all the work, so the Senate, the Greens were happy to refer it to a committee. I'm going to play a clip now where Senator Whish-Wilson makes a comment on the nature of APRA and whether he can trust them or not. Just have a look at that.
So while we're always watching it, my personal experiences is I do trust the regulators, people like APRA and the Reserve Bank and ASIC to do their job to the best of their ability with the resources that they have.
So that's his takeaway. I trust APRA. That is really the gist of the issue. Now, what's bad about what he just said, because I was there when he said it, is that the gentleman I was with, Dr. Wilson Sy, and I really appreciate Dr. Sy coming with me to Canberra, he is a real expert on banking, and he worked at APRA.
Yeah.
And Whish-Wilson knew, and every member of Parliament knew, that Dr. Wilson Sy was there to give them a different version of APRA than the media gives them and the government gives them. Right? He knows what a failure of a regulator APRA is. He knows even worse than that, right? Which I don't want to say publicly now, but he's prepared to talk privately to politicians about. He's seen the way they operate. Remember, we had 3 former APRA people make submissions against this, giving APRA these powers to this committee. And he was one of them, the sort of the most prominent of the 3. Whish-Wilson refused to meet him. And by refused, did not, all his colleagues were telling him, you should be the one to meet these guys. No response whatsoever. So, sorry, that's a failure of a public leader, right? You can't say, I trust APRA, while knowing there's a man in the building that can give you a different view and you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
That is outrageous. If that's the nature of the Greens, do not trust him. If you're a Greens supporter, that's what you have as your finance spokesman, right? And if he wants to make up for it, he should make it his business to meet with someone like Dr. Wilson Sy. So that's one point I'll make. And of course, because the Greens were the only possible organised opposition to this bill, right? The fact that this guy is their spokesman, the government, all they had to do was placate him and they got it through, effectively. The other possible opposition was a last-minute thing. The CEC never campaigned to amend the bill. We campaigned to have it ditched. But during our meetings, when we tried to meet with everybody, the government and opposition members we meet with, they're just members of their parties and they're towing the party line, but they're interested in what we have to say, and some more than others. But when we had a meeting with crossbenchers, we had an interesting response from One Nation. And after being briefed on the bill, they proposed, given that the government had made such a big deal, no, the CEC is incorrect, this does not include deposits. One Nation proposed, let's put up an amendment to clarify that. Let's just specifically word in there with this wording that we were worried about that's so broad, add a qualifier, this cannot include deposits. That was their proposal. So the next morning they did that. They had a meeting with the government. They told the government they intended to pass this, move this amendment. The government said to them, let's have a look at the amendment and we'll run it by our legal team for you so the wording's right. And while I'm sitting in there watching this pass, I noticed there's no One Nation senators in the room. And when it passed, I went out and called them, and they said to me they were still waiting to hear back from the government on their amendment. While they're waiting to hear back, it gets snuck through behind their back.
Yeah.
Right? The government went to that length to make sure that this question of deposits could not be clarified.
Yep.
Right? That's what you're dealing with this government. That's the bill we've got passed at the moment. And so let me just, again, like I said, I thank Dr. Wilson-Sy for his participation. I persuaded him to give me a very quick interview at the end, just so you can put his feelings on the record of what his experience was like. Before I introduce it, let me look. This man's a real expert. He's someone who started off. He has a PhD in astrophysics, right? But when he used to work at ANU as a professor there, when the government shut down the space program, he moved into finance, right? Because with his mathematical skills, and he worked as an investment banker with BT for a while. And then he eventually migrated over to the regulators, mainly because he wanted to. He wanted to see how the other side worked. So he's someone who has a broader perspective than just finance, right? And he's as smart as any of their quants, these finance experts. So this was his experience, his takeaway from our few days there. I'm Robert Barwick, reporting for the CEC Report. I'm here with Dr. Wilson-Sy, and we're in Parliament House. Yesterday, the Senate passed the APRA Crisis Resolution bill on the voices. Didn't even go to a vote, and so now it's law. And we've been talking to members of Parliament about everything that was wrong with that bill and the importance of Glass-Steagall. So I just want to ask Wilson a few short questions. Wilson, what did you think of the process of the bill passing?
Well, I must admit, the way in which the debate and the speeches were delivered in the Parliament, it was quite disturbingly rapid, without much time for digestion or debate. And the second reading and the third reading came in rapid succession.
Most Australians would be pretty surprised to see how it's possible that a law can be passed that quickly. Hey,
yeah.
I've been there before. It struck me how shocked you were. What is your concern now that the bill is passed?
My concern is that it is a step in the wrong direction. I mean, it's just continuation of something that has proven to be unsustainable, and we ought to reverse course.
And what is your fear now that with you watch the stock market and the markets pretty closely? As we ascertained from talking to members of Parliament, a lot of them thought this was a bit of an academic exercise. Australia won't have a financial crisis. How do you see it?
Well, as a result of central bank policy and low interest rate, there are bubbles everywhere. There's the property bubble, bond market bubble, stock market bubble. So we're in for a lot of very high risk developments in the near future.
Well, Wilson, that's all we've got time for. As you know, we've got to run, but thanks for joining me in Canberra this week, and that's us signing off for the CEC Report.
Now we have to take a quick break, but when we get back we're going to talk about how Glass-Steagall was also raised during this debate. Welcome back to the CEC Report, where we're discussing the passage of the government's bail-in bill, which will enable deposits to be confiscated to save banks in a new financial crash. Now, during the course of the non-debate in the Senate, Greens Senator Peter Whish-Wilson was forced to raise the issue of Glass-Steagall banking separation because it had been raised by the more than 1,000, and inside sources put it at even possibly over 2,000 submissions that our supporters, CEC Report viewers, made to the Senate Economics Legislation Committee to inquire into this bill. So what was the context for...
Well, his whole speech was actually quite interesting because it was very defensive, and it was in response to everything raised in the submissions, right? Of all the senators, you have to say he's the one that probably took him the most seriously. But the issue was Glass-Steagall, because Glass-Steagall is the anti-bail-in. Right, it's the opposite of bail-in. Protect savers at all costs, right, by having a separation between banks commercial banks with deposits and all other financial instruments. That was the thing. And he was forced to address that because he knows that the public's demanding it. And I must say in my meetings with members of parliament, they got this idea that it is the anti-bail-in. It's the opposite of what they've just passed, right? So there's two systems, before the world really. Are we going to keep going with this system where the banks are allowed to keep gambling? That doesn't go unchecked, but they have the public as their buffer in case when they get into trouble, not in case. Or do you have a system that stops the banks from gambling with the public? Mm-hmm. It's quite straightforward, and so what he said was interesting.
Yeah, so we'll just roll that clip.
The next issue was the implementation of the Glass-Steagall legislation in Australia. Can I say that while I think that would be an interesting debate, and if someone wants to put up a private member's bill or the government wants to bring it on, then we can actually have the debate about a structural separation in our economy that's been previously implemented in the US. I understand why people may think that was a contributor. The removal of the Glass-Steagall Act was a contributor to the GFC. But I do think in Australia, most of our big retail banks, and they're some of the most biggest and profitable banks in the world, they're not as active in the investment banking market as, for example, are our foreign banks like the ones I used to work for, Deutsche Bank and Merrill Lynch. I think there already is a type of structural separation, but by all accounts, let's have the debate. It would be a very interesting one if someone was to bring on a bill to Parliament on that. So, look, financial system stability should be taken very seriously and should have our utmost attention and scrutiny. I just say to those people out there that are still disappointed that the Senate didn't have a public hearing, and they're going to be disappointed when a number of us support this bill today. My belief is nothing really probably would have satisfied them except having the Glass-Steagall Act enacted here in the Senate today. But I would say to them that we do take this issue very seriously, and thank you for your submissions and raising your concerns. It's always important that these things are brought to our attention and that we're held to account. I believe we've actually done our job today and will continue to do our job.
So, Elisa, in essence, he's laid down a challenge. Yep. And frankly, that's our goal. And we're inviting everyone to participate in this. The next stage of this, we're not stopping. There's going to be more bail-in type stuff coming on the end of the year, and we'll be all over that. We're going to keep scrutinising the way that this bill gets implemented. But the real goal, the overarching goal, is Glass-Steagall. That's the issue. And we have to bring excruciating pressure to bear, like we've been doing on bail-in, on MPs for that. And I'm telling you, a lot of them are starting to get it, right? Let's get a private member's bill up. Let's get a debate that the government and Labor are forced to respond on and come up with some possible justification of why not Glass-Steagall. And let the Greens, for instance, they have a policy of ending the vertical integration of banks. Well, let them clarify what that means. Does that mean Glass-Steagall? Because that's what Glass-Steagall would do, right? So that's the agenda now. That's what we have to do now, and everyone participate in that with us. And it's obvious that MPs are worried. I mean, he referred to the people out there, Wish Wilson, and they know that they have no excuse. If this bail-in policy even comes close or a whiff of being used, they have been alerted, they have been told, they have no excuse to deny any knowledge of this. Now, join us, call us, and we'll send you a free copy of our weekly publication. This is how you'll know exactly what the fight is and how to take it to your MP. So give us a call, get involved. We'll stop briefly and we'll come back and we'll talk about the urgency to get Glass-Steagall because of the way the financial system's breaking apart. Welcome back to the CEC Report. So we've been discussing the necessity to get Glass-Steagall onto the floor of the Australian Parliament. We're in the process of drafting legislation for that, which we'll have out soon. We'll be getting that everywhere and we'll be getting a big campaign going. If they thought they got hit hard on this bail-in legislation, well, they passed it. Now they've got to go to the real serious solution and the only solution to guard from this new oncoming global financial crash. And we've been reporting in recent weeks the flurry of warnings that are coming thick and fast, faster by the day. And I'll just cite a few more, and these are warnings that any number of things in the quote-unquote everything bubble, because there is a myriad of bubbles as opposed to in 2007-08 the housing bubble that was relatively straightforward compared to what we're looking at today. So these warnings are that any number of triggers could set off a new global financial meltdown in a scenario where the
the banks are much more heavily indebted. They've got bigger cases of derivatives. Every measure is worse.
Yeah.
Now, just to cite a few headlines here to give you the flavour of it, and then I'll get your comment on it. You had in Zero Hedge this week a headline, "Plunge in interbank lending, the straw that broke the Fed's back." And they're talking about quite a dramatic drop in interbank lending, which we'll put up a graph that they used on the screen, which they put down to the Fed, the US Federal Reserve, winding back quantitative easing and tightening rates in order to try to deflate these bubbles that they've created, plus a number of other factors that they mentioned playing into that. Then you had from Insure Intelligence the headline, "City of London financiers contemplate imminent 2018 US stock market crash of up to 50%. You had a headline from Wolf Street, "Big reset looms for corporate credit market." And in the Financial Times, "Worries over exotic exchange traded funds deepen."
Well, they're all alarming. The interbank lending one is, if people remember 2008, the actual nub of that crisis was a collapse in interbank lending. That was what they called the credit crunch. When the banks stopped lending to each other, the merry-go-round stopped and all the pieces started falling out of the sky, right? And if you're seeing those signs again, because what did they do? They dropped interest rates to nothing and pumped out all these trillions in free money effectively. Once interest rates start going up, the system can't afford that, right? But if they don't go up, the system can't afford the productive part of the system can't afford that either. So anyway, it's a catch-22, and something's going to give, and that's what that's referring to. I'll just say quickly, because we don't have much time, on the worries over exotic exchange traded funds deepen. At least this is something I've been following for a couple of years. When people look at the stock market, these new instruments called exchange traded funds are quite popular, and what they are is you invest in this fund that promises you the same return as an index. So if there's a fund based on the US stock market, the Dow Jones index, it's skyrocketed since in the last couple of years, right? Absolutely skyrocketed. But the fund isn't invested in those stocks. It's invested in other bets that get even more than those stocks, and they have to match them, right? But when you have the kind of haywire and fluctuation in the stock market and then in the other bets, that can all go really bad. Not a little bit bad, really bad. And there's a lot of money in those funds. It's been one of the ticking time bombs in the system. And this last little period of market turmoil has set that off. And any number of things can be the trigger, a small spark somewhere, that can ultimately set the whole thing aflame.
Now, there was also an APRA paper that was put out this week, and we're raising this because of the committee on the bail-in bill having said that they were satisfied that our financial system is
unquestionably strong.
That's right, but APRA's just put out a paper that actually says there are potential systemic vulnerabilities to the financial system created from high levels of residential mortgages lending for investment purposes, and they're proposing changes to risk weighting. So they're already undermining their own argument.
And the problem is what they're warning about in that they caused.
Exactly.
This is why Polly's meet in Wilson's side was so important. He was there when they caused it. They set these parameters to create this problem. Now they're trying to look good. Oh, this is a worry. Yeah, you caused it, right? This regulator should not have been given those powers. It should be disbanded. In fact, let's have Glass-Steagall instead. That's
right. Now, there's a good article in our alert service this week too about how China actually studied the causes of the 2007-2008 crisis. They said the real economy is disassociated from the financial system, and so we have to get that back functioning, and that's what they're doing with real investment into infrastructure. So call in, get involved. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Lisa.
And join us again next week for the CEC Report.
MELfeed.video.
Hi, this is MELfeed.video. We're actually in Penrith, New South Wales at the moment with Darren McErlain, who is one of our voiceover artists who's helping us with some voice work on MELfeed. So you'll probably hear him, and you might even see him from time to time. We're talking about that, aren't we? So we might even see you occasionally.
Absolutely. I'm very, very excited about being part of this brand new project called MELfeed.video, and I guess I'm very honoured to be able to maybe use my voice to piece things together. I think that's going to be very exciting, and I guess it's going to be great to piece some of that vision together, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity to piece some of those historical pieces of online TV as well. So it's certainly a great opportunity for you and for me as well.
Yeah, so the purpose of MELfeed is to go back into some of the archives of some of the new and old, some of the new stuff, but some of the old stuff that community TV has produced, especially Northern Access Television and Metro TV, which we'll be doing some stuff with. So it should work out pretty well.
I think it's a very exciting project because I think as time goes on, some of these fantastic productions can get forgotten about, and I think it's really important that we archive those, we keep showing those things, and I think the greatest part about streaming TV is that people can relax and watch all the videos unfold as they take place, which is fantastic.
So what is some of the stuff that you've been up to with your voice work over the years?
Well, I'm very honoured that MELfeed are out here in Penrith. This is, I guess, my hometown. This is the home of great 80s music where Air FM, I guess, broadcasts. I do the drive time show here from 3 to 6, and I'm very excited about that. So I guess it's a great way to connect with the listeners, and I guess I've been... you've been able to hear my voice and see some of my things on YouTube, and I guess there's a bit of a history there with television and radio and theatre perhaps, but I'm more than honoured to be part of MELfeed.video at this stage.
So you're currently on a local open narrowcast station in the Penrith area, that's correct?
Absolutely. Here, Air FM, it broadcasts on 88.0 FM in Penrith, and I guess we mainly focus on the 80s music, and I guess I do the drive time show. So yes, we've got the 80s music, but we've also got, we do the traffic and the weather, and more importantly, which is something I'm very excited about, is that we actually stream online on tunein.com, which is very exciting.
So you can find Air FM through the TuneIn app, so if you search, what is it, Air FM, you'll find it on the app?
Absolutely. Air FM on the TuneIn app. Just look for, I guess, the coloured logo for Air FM here in Penrith, which you can see the great backdrop of Penrith just behind me, and we broadcast 24/7 on, I guess, on 88.0, and you can also find us on tunein.com. Very exciting.
Yeah, so just look for the test pattern logo.
That's the one. It's the rainbow coloured one. That's exactly right. Fantastic.
Colour bars, I think it is. That's the technical term, isn't it?
That's the colour bars. I like that one. I'm gonna work with that this afternoon. The colour bars. I like it.
Yeah. So you're also a primary school teacher in the local area as well?
Absolutely. I've been working here in the area of South Penrith for 14 years, and I guess I bring primary teaching and journalism and voiceover acting all together in some format. So here in Penrith. So I'm very, very honoured that I'll be able to do a lot of these voiceovers for MELfeed here from Penrith. Very excited about that one.
So some of your talents have rubbed off on the kids too, apparently, you were telling us.
I hope that I bring some sort of inspiration in some way, and I guess they certainly, I don't always tell them what I do, but they go searching on YouTube and listening on the radio, and they have a listen to some of the great things that I do. So that's always nice of them to do that.
So they're getting introduced to some of the 80s music themselves, are they?
I think when they start playing them at discos, it's already a fact of, oh, that's something I've listened to on Air FM, which is very exciting. It's something they've heard before.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us anyway, and we'll look forward to working together in the future with this great project as it gets going.
Fantastic, Michael. I'm really honoured to be part of MELfeed.video, and more importantly, thank you for coming out to Penrith today. I'm very excited about that.
Okay, and possibly we might try and do some footage around Sydney while we're here. Obviously we're here in October, but we'll be broadcasting on this channel from November, so we'll see if we can do some little bits from around Sydney and a few different places.
Fantastic. Our viewers can join us and see lots of the great work that Michael does as well, which is fantastic.
Okay. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks very much for having me. We'll see you soon.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed.video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Wednesday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You are welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us at MELfeed.video, we wish you a very good night.